Welcome everybody, it's Burt McCarty at Clemson University on a beautiful fall day here in Clemson. And today we're going to have a couple studies in regard to pore control and overseeding with ryegrass as well as pore trio. Before I get started, I'd like to thank my cameraman and editor, Mr. T. Studemeyer. I'd also like to thank Simplot. Simplot cheerfully gave us the seed. As you might well know, seed supply this year is very scarce and very expensive. So again, thanks to Simplot for that. All right, T, let's get started. Again, this trial, the objective is to see how we can overseed in relationship to time and herbicides that are normally used for pore control. This is perennial ryegrass. It was seeded at 18 pounds per 1,000 square feet. It was seeded the last week in October, and today's the first week in December. So it's been about 5 or 6 weeks. All right, this 101 is the untreated. Again, the ryegrass been out about 5 or so weeks, 18 pounds per 1,000 square feet. You see a very good stand of ryegrass has occurred. Treatment 2 is Pronomid, which is a common name for curb. Curb was applied at 30 fluid ounces per acre, and this is 3.3 pound per gallon formulation. That translates to a half a pound AI per acre. Now the curb was put out 30 days before we overseeded, so that would have been in late September. And so it's been about 2 months or a little over 2 months since the curb has been put out. Very little negative impact on the overseeding with the perennial ryegrass. Again, it's a little too early to see how the pore control is going to occur. We have to wait to see that in the spring when the seed heads pop. But again, the curb again at 30 fluid ounces per acre, 30 days before we overseed. Next treatment is metribuzin or Syncor. The Syncor was applied at 8 ounces per acre using 75 WP formulation. The Syncor was put out 1 day before overseeding. So again, we overseeded last week in October 27th to be exact. So we put out the metribuzin or Syncor 1 day before that overseeding, and again 18 pounds of ryegrass per 1,000 square feet, and have a very good stand of the ryegrass. So no negative effect, even with that tight window of application prior or overseeding prior to putting out the overseeding with the Syncor. Our last treatment here would be kind of the standard, and what I mean by that, we're using Revolver. Revolver we put out 9 fluid ounces. Again, just like the metribuzin, we put out 1 day prior to overseeding. So no negative effect on the overseeding stand. So we'll see again in the spring how this works on the pore annual control. But so far it looks good as far as the perennial ryegrass establishment. In the second trial, it had the same treatments and timings as the first trial with perennial ryegrass. The difference would be we're using pore trivialis. And pore trivialis was put down at 8 pounds per 1,000 square feet as far as the overseeding rate. And again, this was applied in the last week in October of 2021. All right, we're on a second study here, which is actually just a duplication of the first study, but instead of using perennial ryegrass overseeding, we did the first study, we're using pore trivialis, or rough stalk bluegrass. And the pore trio was seeded at 8 pounds per 1,000 square feet. Also was overseeded the last week in October, just like the ryegrass was in the previous trial. Okay, this first treatment is the untreated, and so you can see the establishment of the pore trivialis, again at 8 pounds per 1,000, and this is after about 5 weeks. Treatment 2 is Curb or Pronomid, 3.3 pound per gallon formulation. It's put out 30 fluid ounces per acre, which is equal to about a half a pound of active per acre. This was put out 30 days prior to overseeding the pore trivialis. So far doesn't seem to have any negative effect on the establishment of pore trivialis. Still too early to see how the pore control is going to be. That'd be something in a video we'll probably shoot next spring. But to this point, it looks like it had no negative effects of the curb and the overseed. Next treatment is the metribuzin or Syncor. Again, using 75 WP formulation, we put it out at 8 ounces per acre. And this was applied 1 day before overseed. So kind of surprising here, had no negative effects on the establishment of pore trivialis. And again, this is after about 5 weeks of the pore trio being planted And so, so far it looks like a good treatment. Again, treatment 4 is kind of our standard, and that standard being revolver. Revolvers put out 9 ounces per acre. Again, 1 day prior to overseeding with the Poa trivialis at 8 pounds per 1,000 square feet. And as you can see, no negative effects on establishment of Poa trivialis. So, in the spring, once our Poa annua starts to flower or produce seed heads, we can see it a whole lot better than we can now. We'll probably reshoot another video and see how the Poa annua control is occurring in both of these trials.
Hey, I'm Bob Cross, and we're continuing our discussion of Poa control here on a TifEagle research green, looking at pre-emergence Poa annua control. And this study is basically a pre-emergence herbicide study using a experimental compound, which is Cumaron active ingredient, with a proposed trade name, I believe, of Samurai. So we've got 3 different rates of it, and we have a couple of compounds that are currently registered for use on Bermudagrass putting greens. So I'm going to take you through the treatments. Please note this is the 2nd year of a 2-year study. So all of these treatments underwent applications in 2020, fall 2020, and then spring 2021, and then we picked it up again this fall. All right, now looking at the treatments, we're going to begin with a non-treated plot. You can see here excellent Poa pressure on this TifEagle putting green. And the first herbicide treatment is the experimental compound Cumaron. Cumaron here was applied at 3 ounces per 1,000 square feet. And as I noted previously, we began this trial last year, so this is the 2nd year of the trial. So this treatment was applied in fall of 20, spring of 21, and then we're resuming that treatment pattern. So the dates for those treatments were September 21st of 2020, and then February 27th of 2021. And our fall treatment was made about 10 weeks ago on September 17th. Note that there is, to this point, good pre-emergence, excellent actually pre-emergence Poa annua control. What you might see there is some broadleaf weed beginning to germinate. And from the previous year, our observations are that Cumaron does not provide any pre-emergence broadleaf weed control, or at least with the species that we have present on this putting green. The next treatment is Cumaron at 6 ounces per 1,000 square feet. Again, following the same treatment dates as the previous treatment. So September 21 of 2020, February 27th, 2021, and then most recently September 17th, 2021. Excellent Poa control to this point. The next treatment is Cumaron at 12 ounces per 1,000 square feet. 12 ounces per 1,000 square feet, same timings as the first 2 Cumaron treatments. Please note that these treatments will receive an additional application this spring. One note that I want to make about the Cumaron treatments is excellent pre-emergence Kyllinga control that we noticed during the summer. The species on this putting green is coxcomb Kyllinga, and we will link a video documenting the Kyllinga control that was previously made in the video description below. The next treatment is Bensalide, applied at 9.4 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. It follows the same treatment pattern and dates as the Cumaron treatments. So in review, September 21, 2020, February 27th, 2021, and most recently September 17th, 2021 and it will receive a re-app this spring. The next treatment is PoaCure. This treatment was applied at 0.6 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. This treatment was a little bit different than the previous treatments from an application schedule because, as the label indicates, multiple applications with this product are needed. The first application was made September 21st of 2020, but a reapplication was made approximately 3 weeks later on October 14th, 2020. The spring application was made February 27th of 2021. This year we applied on September 17th and then made a reapplication on October 10th. Again, all these treatments were applied at 0.6 fluid ounces per 1,000 square feet. The last treatment is Curb, applied at 1 pound active ingredient per acre. And we applied this on the same schedule as the PoaCure. So an initial treatment, September 21 of 2020, a re-app about 3 weeks later, October 14th of 2020, and then a spring treatment, February 27th of 2021. This fall, we applied September 17th, 2021, and then approximately 3 weeks later on October 10th. Please note that you can see some of the dead or dormant Kyllinga, coxcomb Kyllinga plants. You note poor control, which is expected with Curb, but you can compare that to the Qumran plots. So excellent Kyllinga control we observed in the Qumran plots. So in summary, we have excellent POA control to this point with a few of these treatments. One thing to note is, again, all of these treatments will get reapplied this coming February. These treatments were applied at 80 gallons per acre carrier volume. A few notes just from year to year. We saw really good POA control throughout the study with the high rate at 12 ounces per 1,000 of Qumran. And as time passes, we did observe some slight drop off with that Qumran, though this product is not currently registered in the United States. As far as the benzoylide goes, we saw excellent POA control results last year, season-long POA control, but this year we're not seeing as good a control early on with that treatment. Curb, so far in both years, has given us excellent POA control.
I hope y'all enjoyed the video today. Again, thanks to Dr. Bob Cross for sharing some of his results, as well as T. Studemeyer for being a cameraman. We have many other POA trials out in the field. I wanted to show you some of the relationships with the overseeding and see how well these things will be established. We'll continue to shoot more videos in the spring as the POA starts to flower and we see the results of some of these other trials. Again, thank you so much for paying attention.